Thank you for listening to this episode, and follow the podcast on social media by finding @PrestigiouSPod. And if you'd like to be coached on how to live a more prestigious life, you can reach out to me, Chris Bean, at Chris Bean Official, or by emailing the podcast directly at prestigiousinitiative@gmail.com. Lastly, sign up for our newsletter either through social media or on our website. This is the Prestigious Initiative. Welcome. I'm Chris Bean. Today, I'm thrilled to have Leonard Scheiner on the show. Leonard is the CEO of Geek Haus, a marketing agency that specializes in helping law firms and business owners to build strong brands and achieve predictable growth. Leonard brings over a decade of experience of marketing strategy, brand development, and client acquisition, transferring businesses through powerful, results-driven framework. Leonard, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's so great to be here.
So, Leonard, why would somebody want to listen to today's conversation? What would they get from today?
What would they get from today's conversation? That's a great question. So I think that as business leaders, we are sometimes always firefighting, and that can always seem like we're on the offensive. And I think in today's conversation, we're going to get a different perspective, because when I approach problem solving in business or just business in general, I'm looking at how can we have the most fun, take the path of least resistance with the most gain. And overall, it's a more positive look, I think. And so coming from someone or really anyone who wants to have a better day, a better life, I think this is going to be a more positive spin on really anything that they're approaching in their business.
Awesome. So I know you've had tremendous success in helping law firms and business owners to achieve growth through targeted marketing. Can you share some common elements or some key elements that you believe that contribute to the strong and memorable branding?
Yeah, branding is really about crafting who you are and then sharing that with the world, right? Like as people, it's known as our personality, what people can expect from us, how we handle situations. And so for a business, specifically a service-based business like a law firm or a dental practice or an accounting practice, we don't often think of that, right? It's like, well, they do my taxes or they do my books or they handle my lawsuit, or it kind of stops at the value you get from it. But I know from being in this business for over 15 years that not every firm is created the same, right? Not every divorce firm is the same. Not every business firm is the same. And so when you're looking at a brand, we really want to focus in on, of course, the regular things, a website, a consistent logo, cohesive messaging across what we're saying on any platform. But when we really boil it all down, it's our USP, our unique selling proposition. Some people call it a unique value proposition. Essentially, what makes you different, right? If you're looking at all your competition, what makes you different than the rest? And some clients would say, nothing, right? I'm just like everyone else. And I challenge that. I challenge you to press in and look a little bit deeper, because when you start looking at how you operate or the services that you offer, and someone keeps asking you questions about it, you'll find the thing that makes you different. And usually that's a nice a flag to put on the tip of your iceberg, so that it makes you different than the rest when consumers are just looking at, oceans of personal injury attorneys, right? Like who stands out?
Right. And of course, one area that people can stand out is in their branding and making sure that's consistent, making sure it's relatively eye-catching, but also their branding at least moderately communicates their business to whoever the consumer could be. But the unique selling point, I think, is right, and we're going to kind of underline that a little bit there, because that is the thing that uniquely sets you apart from what the sea of everybody else's, whatever they have to offer. And no matter what business you have, you need to have your unique selling point stand out amongst the crowd. What separates you from somebody else? And you're right, because if the business owner doesn't know what separates them from somebody else, then why would their clients or their potential clients go to them over somebody else? What is it about you that people want to go to. And then highlighting that
Right.
in such a way that the consumer or potential consumer can see what that is and they can understand, oh, yes, I want to go to Leonard because I know what he has to offer.
I totally agree with your recap there. And further than that, the next step of it is marketing. Now you've got your USP. Now marketing is about sharing that message out. So, we want to make sure that what we've done in our brand is true in what we're communicating, right? So branding is usually kind of done maybe in a silo or maybe with a few people, right? You're coming up with the values and the qualities and kind of what that perspective is. And then when we're doing marketing, we want to make sure that the marketing team is executing on getting those values out there, or at least when we're putting offers out there, that it encompasses those values, right? We would never want to go against kind of like what our brand is saying. So that's what I mean when we say cohesive marketing.
So, okay, so you got the marketing, you got the branding, the images, the logos, but you're trying to work in that unique selling point into that cohesive atmosphere, that cohesive, let's say, ecosystem, so that the consumers or potential consumers can understand what it is about you that separates from everybody else. Beyond just explicitly saying it's this that separates me from everybody else. Here's my unique selling point. Besides, explicitly saying that in the most basic way possible, what are some strategic or creative ways that businesses can use to get that out to the consumers?
Yeah, this really goes back to the model that we use within Geek House, my agency, which is brand, market, grow. And I like the saying that you can't shoot a cannon from a canoe. So we have to do the brand part. That is building your warship, right? Now we're prepared. We know we've kind of got our deck loaded with our values, what we want to say, how we want to communicate that. And also we know like based on who we're serving, because we're defining that in brand, we will know, are we serving a really elevated business owner, or are we serving a startup business owner? The messaging is going to be the same if you're doing, zero revenue versus if you're doing multiple $1 million of revenue in your agriculture business or whatever your business is, right? The attorney who is communicating their value is going to speak different to different markets. And so I'll give an example. This came up in when we talk about estate planning. We can also sometimes talk about asset protection. And so in those instances, we had a firm, two different firms. One was asset protection and one was estate planning. And in estate planning, we're talking about plan for your family, right? Protect your future. We're talking that people who have assets maybe less than $1 million, right? And it's really about making sure that they are taking care of their family. That's by a none, we're considering their family. Now, if you have assets that are more than that, you're looking at doing some asset protection, right? Different levels of that. If you've got about 3 million or above of net worth, you want to speak with someone who can put together a strategy, right? Because now you're planning, how do I save money on taxes? What type of trust do I put this in? What trust strategies do I want? So I know this is a marketing discussion, so I won't get too far in the weeds about that, but you can see the differences. And when we're talking about someone who's protecting their family, on the lower end, on the higher end, we're going to be talking about the advantages of tax planning. We're not really talking about the family. The family is kind of a second step, right? Because the messages that are going to relate are based on the person who's reading them, hearing them, watching them. And part of marketing, good marketing, is meeting them where they're at. So someone who is a multimillionaire isn't worried about taking care of their family because they've already solved that problem, right? It's not that they don't care about their family. They've already solved that problem well and well and well times over. So now they're looking at being clever and strategic with it, right? Their questions are, how do I gift this and have the taxes work in my favor, right? It's a more educated conversation. It's a different marketing message, right? So from the marketing side of, how do we do this for firms, we're going to be conscious of that. And we want to be in the conversation that those people are having. So one of the ways in marketing, a little hack that I like to use is, what publications are your target demographic reading? And those publications, what are they talking about? How are they talking? Are they written at an 8th grade level or a 12th grade level? Right? It's very, very simple to understand this when you look at the mechanics of it. And of course, there's a lot of variables within there, but that can give you some guidance about, these are the things I should be talking about. These are the marketing messages. And sometimes I'll spend time reading within that genre or that level so that I can go back and write great copy for that specific firm who's in that specific area.
Right, because then the consumers, as they're intaking, let's say it's in a magazine, and the magazine's, upscale magazine, you don't want to be at an 8th grade level in that upscale magazine, because that separates that brings that apart. But I think that so the as you were talking, I'm thinking about the unique selling point, and beyond what that does for the consumer, it also has a benefit for the business as well, because once you know what that unique selling point is, then you can highlight that among various areas of the business to make sure that that is the mode of being for everybody along every step of the process. So that unique selling point is important, not just for the acquisition of new clients, but also for maintaining those clients and making sure that you have that cohesive ecosystem within your business that always communicates that same type of unique selling point. So that is really interesting. And then trying to communicate that in such a way to the potential clients, so that as they're interacting with whatever the medium is, you find the medium that they have, you make sure that the copy that you write for it is equal or on par with whatever that area is. That way it's cohesive and feels a part of whatever magazine or website or article that they might be reading. But on top of that, likely if they're reading those type of articles, that means that if they're reading at like articles that are at an 8th grade level, not that they have an 8th grade education, but they're going to read other areas that have that same type of reading level. If they're reading at 12 and so on. So you want to make sure that no matter what publication you're in, you're still having that same type of output for the consumers to read at, because then again, that's the cohesive, I keep saying ecosystem, but the ecosystem of the business that you have.
It's very true. And we've all heard conversations before that are in English, but we don't understand a thing that's being said, right? I know nothing about medical stuff, right? Like all of that language, I know nothing about. And so, if I'm watching Grey's Anatomy, or not that I watch that, but if I catch a snippet and they're talking and they're doing the surgery, they're talking English, but I have absolutely no clue what's going on. Is it about the heart? Is it about the foot? Is it about his nose? I got no clue. So when we're talking in our marketing, it's the same way. If we're talking at a different level, or and they'll say it a lot about jargon, right? Like, don't have your marketing have a lot of jargon in it. So all of these things, it's like we're talking a different language. It's almost equivalent to not even speaking the same language, because we don't understand it, right? Or we'll start to read it and we'll bounce off because it's not comfortable. So exactly to your point, we want to match and meet them where they are. Have it feel comfortable for them.
So that's an interesting though, because if you okay, so let's go down like the medical avenue here. If your avenue of clients or potential clients is in the medical field, you want to use that type of jargon, for lack of a better phrasing, to connect with them, because they are going to understand that, and they will understand it, even though the other people won't, and you'll put them off. But that's not your potential clients anyways. It's those people. So if you are communicating to your potential clients in their language, using the jargon that they understand, then you give a direct avenue of approach right to them, and it weeds out everybody else, because they know, oh, I don't understand any of this. Okay, well, that must not be for me. You move on.
Very true. So when we're marketing to medical practices, we say patients, not new clients, right? So we're even matching that, right? But the distinction is that You want to use jargon if it helps you, if it brings that relationship closer.
Hmm.
So if I'm talking, if I'm in conversation with an attorney, I will phrase things the way that they would phrase it in a law firm, right? I'm not going to say, can we schedule an appointment for next week? Like I wouldn't phrase it like that. I'm like, let's get some time on calendar later this week,
Hmm.
because they say, let's get some time on like the way that it's phrased is different, right? You might say, if you're working in like entertainment or TV, it's like, well, let's slot that in, right? So there are different, some like cultural terms to each industry. So that is something that can be adapted. But what I'm sharing or really what I want to highlight is that if you think that you've got this great new tech product or this great new healthcare thing, or whatever it is that you as the founder are really excited about, you're so deep into that you have jargon that's from the bottom of the bottle. And most people, they might be into that, right? Like, but they're not going to have as deep of knowledge as you. So again, the overlying principle is to just meet them where they're at, right? You're going to give, even if you were presenting to doctors, right? You're going to give a presentation to family practitioners at a different level than you would give it to specialists or neurosurgeons or someone who's very, very specialized, right? Like it's just a different level it's a different conversation. So meet them where they're at.
In your experience, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see as small businesses or firms making when it comes to branding and doing the client acquisition?
Hmm. I like this question. So I once interacted with a firm who, over about a 2 week period, I got a handful of different things from them: a business card, a note card, a contract, and their logo was different on almost all of them.
Hmm.
So it was different placements, different fonts, different. And I'm like, if this is what we're seeing on the outside, imagine what's going on the inside.
Hmm.
And maybe not everyone thinks about that, but subconsciously, we know when things are a little off, right? We know when things are not congruent. We can spot that. Our brains are trained for that at a biological level. And so when we're looking at a card, we're on the website, we're talking to them on the phone, we're seeing different logos, different messages, right? For those listening, I'm putting air quotes because a logo is a message. And so when that's mismatched, what am I? I'm confused. The trust is broken, and a confused mind will always say no.
Hmm.
So we said no to taking action, right? That's a no to them being hired, all because they didn't have their branding in place.
So,
Now,
oh, sorry, go ahead. Go
yeah.
ahead.
Well, I mean, is that the only factor that we consider? No, but that's a really easy checkbox to check, and then you don't even have that as an issue.
Okay, so my question was if right now it seems like lots of businesses are trying to rebrand. And in fact, seemingly they're taking relatively detailed and specific images and making them much more simplistic. That seems to be maybe I'm a few years behind a little bit, but that seems to be where the marketing is going. Like they're making their branding, their images that go with the branding a little bit more basic, taking the colors out, but with regards to that, how does somebody rebrand or change their logo, because from time to time that happens, without putting off the potential clients and making that disconnect as much as it could be?
Yeah, great question. So when we're handling a rebrand, we want to hurry up and wait.
Hmm.
We want to hurry up and get things done. New business cards, new logos, new printed shirts, new pens, new whatever. Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, and wait until a specific date to launch. Because then you can change things almost overnight, right? This is a little bit difficult to do if you're like a brick and mortar and you have a sign outside and all of these things, right? But even in that case, we coordinated the rebrand for a firm where we got all the promotional items redone, all the marketing material redone. The website was, in demo, but we were waiting to just flip it. And at the new year, everything flipped. It was, we are no longer using that on our letterhead. So all the templates, all the labels, all of the things, we were working with the firm to implement the new brand, right? It's not just something like we can change it on the website, yay, new brand. Well, sometimes if you're a really small business, you can do that, but at a law firm size, you have letterhead, you have envelopes, you have all these things. And so we hurried up and waited until the flip of a year so that it was really clear to everyone in the office that this is the old, this is the new. So everyone be on the lookout. If you see something that is old, flag it so that it doesn't go out. And then we also released on the website, we're very clear that this is a new look. This is our anniversary. So we're rebranding on our anniversary, and we've communicated. All marketing is communication.
Right.
People are going to understand something and then want to go forward, right? Because they were communicated to. Marketing message, even a billboard, all of it. It's communication. And so since we were able to take action that was deliberate and intentional, we planned it, wasn't an overnight thought, and we communicated about it. There was a blog about it. There was a banner on the site that said, hey, this is happening. So, hey, we're going to look a little bit different, right? And the clients knew. So that, when it's handled very well like that, people are going to be tolerant to, I got this last week and now I get this week and they're different. Well, what? And then you go on the website and you see, oh, hey, they rebranded. Very forgiving.
So, okay, my question was going to be about blogs, and it's awesome that you brought that up, because let's say the website has, 500 blogs on it and it has the logo on each of them, and then you rebrand. Do you go back into those old ones and change all 499 of those old ones, or do you just cut and then move forward from there?
Good question. So
And
we
so
we
I'll give you a little bit of more information for that. And
yeah.
I'm selfishly asking for myself because about 6 months ago, I rebranded and changed the logo from red, black and red, to black and green to match the new setup that I have. And what I didn't do is go on any of the old episodes that are already done and change the red out to green, because I think that would be a strenuous process to do, and I don't know if
Mhm.
it would be very beneficial or just to move forward, which is what I did. And so that's why I'm asking. It's a very selfish question, but I think other businesses could perhaps be in the same area.
Well, it's a really relevant question because on blogs you'll have that cover image, right? You'll have your feature image, and some firms choose to put their logo on them. We typically don't advise putting logos on them or anything like that. We create it for the site for what it is, and then social is different. But even to your point of social, right? Like, you were a previous brand before, and your social media shows that. So it's not something where I would go and work to go back. I wouldn't go backwards, because part of a rebrand is that you're stepping into a new chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think of like the BMW logo. The BMW logo hasn't really changed much, but to your previous note of things have gotten simpler, it has gotten simpler, right? We've seen a line get out, and it just, there's no border, it just touches the edge, or some subtle changes like that. And they don't go back. So I wouldn't go back either.
Yeah.
We want to step and go forward into this new chapter. We were that. We're not trying to hide it. We were that. That was a great time. But that was our platform for this next step that we're going into.
All right. Now, one area of your focus is creating predictable growth for your clients. Can you walk me through some of the strategies and systems that you put in place to allow the businesses to consistently be attracting new clients? Hey everyone, it's Chris Bean here from the Prestigious Initiative. If you're looking to level up your life and unlock your full potential, I've got some exciting news for you. My recent guest, Joel Gandara, has an incredible program called 31 Days to Become a Better Man. Joel has packed years of life-changing insights into this easy-to-read book, guaranteed to help you rethink your shortcomings and redefine what it means to be a man in today's world. But that's not all. Joel also offers powerful one-on-one sessions and group classes to guide you on your journey. And he has a special offer for the Prestigious Initiative listeners. You can get $19.99 off the program when you use code PRESTIGIOUS at checkout. Don't wait. Take your first steps towards becoming the best version of yourself today. Visit 31dailychallenges.com and use the code PRESTIGIOUS for your discount. And now back to the show.
So we address that by taking a small service business. Small is relative, right? But small compared to where they want to be. And so we'll take them from a small service business and we will take them through the steps of brand, market, grow, the BMG method. And the BMG method is, after doing this, hundreds of times for firms and then also being inside firms, I would be in a firm and then we would want to create a sister firm and another sister firm. And lawyers are notorious for, creating businesses and setting up new things. So there was always something new when I was in-house at firms to explore and to build. And so after all of that experience, I distilled, what are the key factors? What is the step-by-step that I find myself doing over and over and over again? Because when I zoomed out, I saw that we were setting up a brand, right? We were figuring out, what is the name of this? People kind of, I think, blow by the naming of something, and it's like, well, I'm going to name it that, and I'm going to call it that for now, and here's a logo, and then, well, it's good enough, we can change it. Good enough is good for some things, but maybe not for the foundation of your business. True or true, right? So for the foundation, what is the name? Is it Smith and Partners? Is it Smith and Smith? Is it Smith Law Firm? Is it Smith Law, Smith Injury Law, Smith Law LLP? What are we calling ourselves? Because we want to be consistent, not just for our communication wise, but also digital wise. Part of branding is also claiming your real estate and your spaces digitally. So if we're always calling ourselves the same name, Smith and Smith versus Smith Law Firm, we're going to have better results because Google is going to pick us up better. Google is going to make more connections between us online when we're all referred to as the same. So what is this process? Of course, we need a name, we need a logo, we need colors, we need all those things that we talked about before, right? Our unique selling prop, our mission, also our target audience, right? That's part of our brand pillar, is that who are we going after so that we know who to serve, we know how to communicate. So once we've got that, right? And that's kind of like waving a wand. It's like, in your ideal world, what would this look like? And of course, there's some parameters there, right? We don't want to do 15 practice areas because then we end up with kind of like a Frankenstein law firm and we do a little bit of everything and not a specialist in any of it. We don't want to do that, specialist or expert. Instead, we want to limit it, right? We want to have just a few that we can really focus in on. So who are we? That's our brand. Then our next pillar is market. And market is where we're coming up with systems that get our message out there. We want them to be repeatable and predictable and scalable. So all of our marketing systems are just that. They're repeatable, they're scalable, repeatable, predictable, and scalable. Because then we can almost throw more gas on the fire, right? The fire's working, say it's Google ads or Facebook ads, or it is a referral strategy, which is always something supplemental. Some firms, like, how do we grow? Oh, it's word of mouth and referrals. If 85 or 50%, if any more than about 30% of your business is coming from referrals, we've got some gears that we need to turn, because that's relying on other people who are not your sales force to bring in business. And so we want to stabilize the future of your business because new clients, new customers, new patients are all the engine of a business, right? They have to come in so that the business can keep running. So in marketing, we are looking for ways that are those three things: scalable, repeatable, predictable, to bring in new clients. Now, once we've got that, now we're pretty set within market. Now we can do things within grow that are like that X factor. Where do we get leverage? Is it a referral partner who, like, the two founders or the two CEOs? Maybe it's a doctor and a lawyer, right? Like, whatever that is, what the referral partnership, is it good, right? I was in a firm once and we had a real estate agent, and he was a great referral partner, right? He would send like 2, 3 clients a week or a month, and he would send those clients consistently for years upon years. And he was a great referral source, right? But that was because the managing partner and him used to play golf, right? So like they were buddies, so it made sense, right? So that's something where strategically, from a partnerships, a growth standpoint, we're looking at in that third column, right? We're already handled. The regular business is growing incrementally from market, from that middle pillar. But in this growth pillar, we're looking at those high yielding referral partners, or we're looking at getting in the press, right? Getting in local news. Or I have a client who was a consulting producer for an Amazon documentary, right? Like those are the things where now we can start being something different. And it almost, we loop back to the brand, because when we do things like that, and that's very based on the professional themselves, right? Some people would be like, I never want to speak in public. Depends, right? But that's where we're looking for what's that X factor? How do we leverage it? And then we kind of loop back to brand because it often influences some of the items there. And then we adjust marketing messages because we're at a different level, right? Every level of this, we got to rebrand. So we're going back to brand and we're going up a level every time.
Now, as fast-paced and active as a world, as active of a world as marketing is, what do you do to stay ahead of the potential threads and trends that are going on, just to make sure that you are not outdated in whatever avenues of approach that you're using?
We have the lucky situation of legal being pretty nostalgic. So the way that people look to hire and interact with law firms is nothing on that cutting edge, right? It's not, if we were in a tech product, that would be different. If we were in like a tech gadget or like a fashion product, maybe, then we would be on that cutting edge. But for legal, it's really about the core foundational check boxes that we want to do. And most firms out there, I mean, I think the stat last year was still that 13% of attorneys didn't have a website.
Hmm.
I mean, that's just shocking to me, right? Like these are check boxes that we have to check to exist in this world that we live in today. So luckily for legal, it's not so much on that cutting edge. But if I were at a tech company as a marketer, how would I stay on that cutting edge? I would be looking at daily digests or weekly digests from people who were kind of surveying that, right? There's been a lot of rise of newsletters lately, right? Get on the kind of like a morning brew or daily brew, right? So it's the digest of all the news from the day or whatnot. So there's so many of those within marketing that I've seen pop up in the last 6 months, and I'll join here and there. And some of those have that news, right? It's really difficult to get it yourself, I feel, because
Sure.
we're focused on the day, we're focused on our clients, we're focused on getting results. So I let someone else do that review and scraping, and then I'll happily read the digest.
Right, and then you get to gain knowledge from other people's experience, and you don't have to try to reinvent the wheel or test these various things like, oh, hey, these people say this works, let's try it. Oh, look at that, it actually does work. And then you go back to those people for more information, or that to that newsletter or whatever it is, because they're doing the things that work. And yeah, absolutely, that makes sense. Now, I think that having a firm or a team, a business like you that these firms are connected with, to help them grow their practice is wildly helpful. And I think that that gives them freedom within their practice. And I guess my question is, what does freedom from their business mean to you? And then how do you work with these business owners, these whoever it is that you're working with, because you have multiple different areas and CEO types, I guess, would be the right term for that you interact with. How do you work with them to achieve that freedom from their business?
It's all based on systems. If I look at really the core answer to your question of what gives them that freedom, it's systems. When you can have an SOP for just about everything, you can have people and hire good people that run your good systems. And those good systems run the business. So that takes off 99% of the questions and the issues and problems that might come up. And then having a key person in place, I always say don't delegate delusionally, right? You can't outsource your thinking, but you can outsource some of the doing. And so when we delegate, we should have someone that is, of course, this is not at a solo level, but when you're getting that freedom, right? You're cresting out of the business, things are running on its own. It doesn't require your direct involvement, or not too much of your direct involvement. There's someone else at the helm, right? We see this a lot of times when family businesses are built up, and then the patriarch is getting too old, and then he's just the owner, and then they hire a CEO to run the business. I've seen that a lot. And it's great because now the CEO is making the decisions. And in a law firm, that usually looks like, a office manager or a COO or, some director level person that can look at the systems, run the systems, they know the systems, answer the questions, have the leads come in, they're running the show. And then for the big things, they're having their meeting with the owner or someone else, right? But we really want to be able to, the freedom comes when we can really fire ourselves as the CEO, as the managing attorney. So got to have people in place under us to be able to do that.
All right. I really like systems and creating systems, probably a bit too much, to be completely honest with you. But as a business is moving into that realm where they need to have these systems, these standard operating systems, in place. Okay, so this will be a two or threefold question. What does that look like as far as creating those systems to effectively put in place so that those other people can do the job? And then secondly is, what type of platform do you use to house those? And then what does the auditing look like, and how frequently do you come back to those to make sure they are up to date and doing what they need to be doing?
I love it. So, okay, so part A of that is what do they look like, right? And for SOPs, we don't want anything super cumbersome. We want it to be able to be followed by anyone who is in the firm, right? Who has the knowledge about doing that role. So, if you're a receptionist, we're obviously not going to give you an SOP about how to write a motion like a paralegal, right? Like that's a different education knowledge base. But for the skilled and competent person in that role, they should be able to flip to an SOP and with their reasonable knowledge, be able to execute on it. So, something that maybe is in the SOP is, I don't know, there's so many, right? Like any activity that we could do. So I won't go into examples, but what does it look like? It looks like us having an SOP. We have departments. So we think of departments, usually in a business, there's about 5 to 7 departments, right? We've got accounting, we've got production, we've got marketing, we've got et cetera. So we look at it as the department, and then within there, what is this? What are we accomplishing, right? What's our end result? So within our finance department, we're going to have what does our typical invoicing schedule look like? Is it once a month? Is it every 2 weeks? Okay, if it's every 2 weeks, is it on a specific date? Is it on 1st and 15th? Or is it every other Tuesday, right? Like very specific. Because when you're very specific, then you can go and now it's on someone's calendar and they can execute on those actions. So we would have that. We would have, if a client is disputing it, what's our action plan there, right? Is there a concession that we do? Does it need to go to the billing attorney? What level is that? Is it a dollar amount? Is it a client, distinction level? Like, what does that look like? And it's going to be different from every different firm. So, but in short, it looks like a written document with 1 through 30 steps, and then we're achieving something. And within there, we're also defining our terms, because a lot of times in business we'll say, it's this or it's that, and that means something different to the other person, right? So we want to clarify our terms. So we're defining our terms. Maybe that comes from a legal background, not sure. But so that's what that looks like. Part two of your question was, what platform do we keep this in? So any firm is going to have a server or somewhere where they're keeping files. We create a file for that. And then, hierarchy wise, you've got your departments as folders in there. And then within that, we've titled each Word document or PDF with the title of the exercise that they're doing, right? So it's generating client invoices. It's handling client invoice disputes. It is processing credit cards. It is whatever that looks like. So platform, nothing too fancy there. And then the auditing part of that is your third part of your question. And the auditing looks like this. That CEO or the owner, or excuse me, let me back up. So what the auditing part looks like is that owner who might have fired themselves, right? The managing partner, and then that director level person. So your head of operations, your office manager. When the systems aren't working, we want to have the flexibility for those two people to make the change that is going to make it work, right? We don't need um, a lot of red tape around that. We want things to move efficiently. So, we're not making any big changes, but if it makes sense to, have action 4 happen before action 5, we're just going to make that change and set it as process. That's also part of hiring a good director of operations or a good office manager, is that they're someone who appreciates the process and knows that this is going to be repeated. So we need to think about the downstream influence of whatever decision we're making.
So, Leonard, I know that personal happiness is a huge focus for you alongside professional success. We're talking about defining the terms. How do you define success? And then how do you align your goals or even the team's goals within your business with personal values to have that more fulfilling life?
Well, success to me, I define as an ever-moving target. Because I've told the story before where, I wanted to um, go to business school. I wanted to go into the corporate world. I wanted to have a window office. I wanted to have XYZ, right? And to me, when I was, I don't know, 22, that was my level of success, right? That was what I thought of as success. And then I achieved most of those things, all of those things. And I was like, gosh, this doesn't feel like what it should, like, I'm still putting on my pants one leg at a time. What? I thought this would be different. And so for success, I say that there's levels. But for me, I define success as my next goal, my next hurdle, the thing that I'm like in my soul, I want to do. But I'll admit it, I'm a little nervous, but that's okay. Like we're humans having a human experience, right? Part of this is we're here to have experiences. So why not go be uncomfortable? And I'm doing things now today that I would have been in the corner crying, uncomfortable with 5 years ago. Right. And so I look at that growth and I'm like, that's success to me. Right. And that's going to look different for everyone. But to me, success is achieving that next goal that I thought was just out of my reach. So that's how I define it. And then how do I create the culture that, is promulgating that? Well, I know that for anyone on the team, I guess I'll give an example of like how I handle things that are maybe messed up or they don't go right the first time or something like that. So I don't think that anyone, at least on my team, I don't think that anyone ever messes up because it was intentional, right? If they messed up, where did I not set them up for success and give them the right instruction? Because I don't think anyone does something diligently wrong. Like that just doesn't make sense. We would never do that. So I'm always looking at like, you know what I mean? Everyone makes mistakes. Now, granted, again, this goes back to hiring good people. And that's probably a whole nother podcast that we could do about, how we filter through the silly people. But when you have good people and you're all running in the same direction, give grace. We're all kind of brothers and sisters in this journey we call life. And just like you're waking up and handling your fires of the day, and I'm waking up and handling my fires of the day, so are they. And so if we can be a little bit kinder to the people around us, I'm not saying don't be clear and don't be firm and don't take action corrective when it's needed, but give people some grace.
Now, as the CEO, I'm sure you have a number of demands. Speaking about, putting out fires, how do you approach that work-life harmony? And then what strategies do you use to stay focused and productive as you go through your day, week, months, quarters, years?
A lot of prioritization. A lot of prioritization. That helps handle a lot of the fires as we're talking about, and definitely a lot of the priorities. So that's part of it. The other part of it is realizing that when you're an employee, you're paid for your time. You are paid for your 8 to 5, right? And even if you're on some different, commission type structure, you're paid for the effort that's being input. As a business owner, that is just like your child, right? So I had to shift my way of thinking versus this is my personal life in a bubble, and then this is the business life that I go to in a bubble, right? And I would go to the office, and then I might go to networking after, or I might do something, and that's all within the business bubble. And then I can, flip a switch, and now I'm in my personal bubble, and I can act different and be different and all of that stuff. And I realized this while I was still an employee, but it was that when we can blend the personal of ourselves and the business of ourselves and be more human and true in the way that we're operating, I don't have so many issues now with work-life balance because I'm showing up as me. I'm showing up as Leonard, whether it's business or personal or any of that. And so integrating those two pieces of ourselves was something that allowed me to handle the work-life balance better. And especially as I was back then transitioning into being a business owner, because I mean, if you've been in business for some time now, you realize business for yourself, I should say, you realize that your personal life and your business life are very integrated, very, very integrated.
Yeah, and it seems like, and maybe it's not just right now, but it seems like right now there's a big push for that work-life balance. But I think that doing that means, like you said, you're putting yourself in this bubble, and you're one person when you're at home, and you're another person when you're at work, and you are the same person throughout. And so I like to shift that balance to a harmony. And I think that in my
Mm-hmm.
head, instead of thinking about work-life balance, and it's not much different, I understand, but it's a work-life harmony in my head, because then I know that I am the same person wherever I am, and I want to maintain harmony amongst those different areas that I go to, and make sure that I show up correctly on those different areas, because if not, then that balance may be out of play, but also the harmony is broken within them. And I know that anybody who's listening is the common thread throughout all the areas of your life. It is you. You are that person. And if you are out of harmony in one area, then you're going to be out of harmony in another area and another. So maintaining that harmony throughout, again, it's the same thing. It's just different verbiage that I like to use just to think about it just a little bit differently.
That's a t-shirt right there.
Yeah.
That's so good. I love that because think about a balance, right? When do we think about a balance? It's weights on one side and something on the other, right? And we're trying it's two categories. And so work-life balance, we're, taking from one to put the other, taking from the other to put the first. And harmony, I think of these two things like a song, right? There's two that are going to come together at the same time. So that's a t-shirt, Chris. You should definitely make that.
Well, thank you. And Leonard, I want to say thank you. Thank you for all of the expertise that you've given today. And listeners, I hope that you have enjoyed our conversation with Leonard, gained valuable insights into building a brand and successful business and even a personal brand. And along with that, Leonard's approach to marketing is focused on achieving both business growth and personal happiness. Leonard, I want to know, before we wrap up, do you have any key thoughts or final takeaways you'd like to leave our audience with?
I think when you approach business as part of your life versus something that you have to do, it's part of your life. It's something you get to do. And I think if we've been fortunate enough to have our own businesses, we've got a lot of freedom, right? Even just by having our own business, we have a lot of freedom. So I would encourage us to be grateful for that.
Very good. And if our listeners wanted to go and find out more about you, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, I'll give two. So our agency website is gogeekhaus.com. So go geek Geek, and then house is HAUS. So gogeekhaus, gogeekhaus.com. And then the second one is a free instance for people to up-level their authority online. So as you know, I run a marketing and PR agency. And on the PR side of that, some of what we're helping people do is get on podcasts. So it's taking your knowledge, taking your expertise, and being able to put that into a system, because we love systems, and then regularly and consistently be booking podcast guest opportunities for yourself. So you can go ahead and head over to podcastguestintensive.com, and it's free to register. Again, podcastguestintensive.com, and we'll see you in there.
Perfect. And I'll be sure to link those in the show notes. And listeners, if you found today's episode as inspiring as I did, please subscribe, share with your friends, and leave us a review. Stay tuned for more transformational discussions. Until next time, remember to keep pursuing excellence and growth. It's all you do.